Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the fascinating and, honestly, a bit unsettling psychology of doomscrolling and exactly why your brain is just utterly captivated by bad news. Have you ever noticed that very specific, quiet kind of dread that we willingly invite into our lives? It's this incredibly common habit that has completely rewired our evenings, our mornings, and our minds. So, let's get right into exactly why this happens.
Picture this. It's 2:47 in the morning. The house is completely silent. Your bedroom is pitch black, except for that harsh, glowing blue light of your phone screen just reflecting in your dry, tired eyes. You know, logically, that you desperately need to sleep. I mean, your alarm is going to go off in just a few hours. And yet, your thumb feels incredibly heavy, but it just keeps moving. Swipe. A news story about a looming war. Swipe. A sudden economic crisis. Swipe. A devastating natural disaster. Swipe. Local crime statistics. You are physically exhausted and, strangely enough, the worse the news gets, the harder it becomes to put the phone down.
Which brings us to a central, almost horrifying mystery. Why do we actively seek out pain? Think about the wild cognitive dissonance going on here. We are fully aware, right there in the moment, that reading these things is making our chest tight. It's making us highly anxious. We know it's not healthy, and we know for a fact we should stop. But our thumbs just keep scrolling anyway. Why on earth do we engage in an activity that actively makes our mental state worse?
So really understand this, we first need to clearly define the beast we're dealing with here. Doomscrolling is the continuous habit of consuming negative, alarming, or disturbing information on the internet, even when it causes us immense stress. According to a 2021 article in the journal Psychological Trauma, this behavior truly surged into the global consciousness during the COVID-19 pandemic. Back then, tracking disaster felt like a mandatory daily survival tactic. We thought we absolutely needed to know the numbers to stay safe. But the fascinating and terrifying part is that this survival tactic didn't just fade away when the lockdowns ended. It morphed into a permanent modern habit.
The profound irony of human behavior is that we aren't doom-scrolling because we're sadists who just enjoy feeling awful. We do it because of a massive psychological illusion. Our brain tells us, hey, if I just stay updated, if I just know exactly what the worst-case scenario is, I'll be fully prepared. We are hunting for a sense of control in an increasingly chaotic world. But the cruel twist? The sheer volume of negative information doesn't give us control at all. I mean, you literally can't fix a global economic crisis from your bed at 3 a.m. So the endless updates just leave us feeling completely overwhelmed and entirely helpless.
To understand why we fall so hard for this illusion, picture yourself as an ancient night watchman. For early humans, survival depended on being hyper-vigilant. If a bush rustled in the dark, the human who assumed it was a deadly predator and stayed on high alert, they lived to see another day. The human who cheerfully assumed it was just the wind, well, they usually didn't pass on their genes. And here's the kicker. Your brain hasn't changed since those ancient days on the savannah. It is the exact same hardware. The only thing that has changed is our environment. You aren't scanning rustling bushes for predators anymore. You're scanning endless digital timelines for global tragedies.
This brings us to a fundamental concept in clinical psychology, which was heavily highlighted in a 2022 review published in Frontiers in Psychology: negativity bias. This is the evolutionary trait where the human brain is literally wired to be far more sensitive to threats than to neutral or positive information. You already know exactly how this feels, right? You can get 10 amazing compliments in a single day. But if someone gives you one slight insult, what are you thinking about when you lie awake in bed? The insult. To our ancestors, paying attention to bad news was quite literally a matter of life and death. Good news is nice to have, but bad news? That's urgent. It demands your immediate attention. So, when you see a terrifying headline, your brain immediately flags it as critical survival data. It becomes virtually impossible to look away.
Let's walk through how this ancient bias interacts with modern technology through a concept called uncertainty reduction theory. Step 1. A crisis occurs in the world. Step 2. Your brain, which absolutely hates the unknown, desperately seeks to reduce that uncertainty. It craves closure. Step 3. You turn to the internet, which unfortunately provides limitless, completely unfiltered data. And this leads to Step 4, the trap. The internet creates this false promise that if you read just one more article, you'll finally figure it all out. But because there's always another perspective, another unverified rumor, another tragedy unfolding in real time, we become permanently trapped in an endless search for answers we are never ever going to find.
Which leads us to a fascinating yet incredibly terrifying question. Where is the last page of the internet? Just think about that for a second. If you're reading a physical newspaper or watching an evening news broadcast, eventually you hit the back page. Eventually, the anchor signs off, tells you to have a good night, and a commercial plays. There is a natural stopping point. There's closure. Your brain receives the signal that the threat assessment is officially over for the day. You can finally rest. But on a digital timeline,
The answer is 0. There are exactly 0 natural endpoints on a social media feed. The invention of the infinite scroll was a massive turning point in digital psychology because it completely broke our natural ability to just walk away. Because there is absolutely no bottom to the page, the brain gets tricked into a state of compulsive checking. It constantly whispers to you, just one more swipe. Don't stop now. The very next post might contain the vital piece of survival information you need to stay safe.
when you combine an infinite feed with a brain that is desperate for threat detection, you get what is known as the anxiety loop. A 2023 systematic review from Springer Link lays out the clinical devastation of this cycle. And man, it is a heavy burden to carry. We see severe insomnia because your brain flat out refuses to shut off its threat detection radar. We see profound emotional exhaustion, where you wake up feeling totally drained before the day even begins. There's a sharp rise in depressive symptoms and constant, thrumming physiological stress. It's this chaotic, overwhelming flood of data that the human mind was simply never built to process all at once.
And here is a truly shocking reality derived from a 2024 media psychology review. Excessive exposure to negative news increases your physical stress levels, literally spiking your cortisol, raising your heart rate, even if the actual danger is thousands of miles away. Think about what that actually means. You're lying in bed, trying to wind down, but because you are scrolling through disaster, your body is pumping stress hormones into your bloodstream. Your brain cannot distinguish between a predator in your bedroom and a war on the other side of the planet. Your body reacts as if the threat is right there, in the room with you, preparing you to fight or flee from a digital phantom.
Now you might be wondering, why is my feed so full of this stuff anyway? Why does it seem so inescapable? Well, when you look at how engagement breaks down by emotion, the disparity is wild. The vast majority of interaction is driven entirely by fear, anger, outrage, and shock. Calm, positive content, it barely makes a dent. Across almost all social platforms, negative content drives vastly higher engagement. Positive content just gets ignored because it doesn't trigger our survival instincts. Fear compels interaction. Outrage makes you stop and comment. Anxiety makes you share the post. Attention is the currency of the internet, and absolutely nothing captures attention quite like a threat.
This unveils a profound and chilling reality, which is extensively detailed in Max Fisher's book, The Chaos Machine. Social media platforms didn't necessarily set out to create some evil empire of anxiety. They didn't hold a meeting and decide to make us all depressed. They simply built algorithms designed to maximize the time you spend on their app. And those algorithms, through pure machine logic, very quickly learned a dark truth about human nature. Fear makes humans pause their scrolling. The cold, calculating algorithm doesn't know what anxiety is. It doesn't care if you're exhausted or depressed or terrified. It only measures retention. It only cares that you stay on the page.
So what we've ultimately built is an entire modern infrastructure that perfectly, almost maliciously, exploits our ancient survival brain. We live in this relentless breaking news culture where everything is an emergency. We fuel an outrage economy where human anger is quite literally monetized by advertisers. We prioritize fear-based engagement above all else. And then algorithm amplification takes those primal deep-seated fears and broadcasts them to billions of people simultaneously. It is the absolute monetization of the survival instinct, and our own negativity bias has been weaponized for profit.
It really makes you step back and think about how fundamentally our daily lives have shifted in just a few short decades. I mean, for hundreds of thousands of years, ancient humans only ever had to worry about local tragedies, a bad storm in their village, a predator near their cave, a dispute with a rival tribe. The scope of their worry was incredibly small. But today, because of the glowing devices in our pockets, we hold the collective fears, the wars, the crimes, and the disasters of the entire globe right in the palm of our hand. And we bring all of those global tragedies directly onto our pillows right before we close our eyes to sleep.
It leaves us with a heavy, lingering realization about our digital diets. As we process everything we've unpacked today, I want you to consider this thought. Maybe the internet doesn't actually make the world more dangerous. Maybe the internet just makes sure we never, ever stop seeing the danger. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and reach for your phone, ask yourself, are you looking for answers or are you just looking for another predator in the dark? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.